Hello, folks. Alright. Bit of an odd one, kind of out of nowhere today. Yeah. Did you know there was a friggin' Resident Evil game on the Game Boy? Because, I knew that this was a thing, but I never really gave it a full playthrough until recently. Well, I'm mostly full playthrough anyway. Because it's honestly not awful. Like, granted, the music is randomized, so that just sounds super janky. But yeah, Resident Evil Gaiden. Would kind of recommend actually giving this one a go, just in terms of it's kind of fascinating. Just how they managed to implement a full Resident Evil game on a frickin' Game Boy Color. Way that I understand that this actually ended up going down is that they had a remake of RE1, and then they just kind of had the assets from it, and then they figured, screw it, we need to make something still come out because they couldn't quite get that one running properly. So they created this. So, like, for example, you can aim at stuff, sure, but this is like a weird thing where you have your standard Resident Evil overworld kind of situation, except it switches to sort of RPG mechanic when you're actually having a fight. The music picks up and there's zombies, and then there's zombies, and then you go, like, do something like that, and then they get popped. It's a cool game. Like, if granted, it's not amazing. Like I said, it's definitely super janky, but for what it is, this is really neat. Again, just kind of, if you want to give this a bit of an explore, just if you appreciate the kind of dumb stuff, then this might be exactly what you're what you're looking for here. It definitely sounds weird. It definitely looks weird, but I want to show this off right here where, like, it's not just one encounter per zombie. If you have multiple zombies that have aggro to you, they'll actually be reacting in this kind of overworld thing. And you do have multiple characters and stuff like that, so it's just neat, you know? And then different weapons are kind of different to use. And surprisingly, the knife is actually really good. So you can give any character any weapon. But for example, you have stuff like this where the knife is weirdly good against everybody because you can just do this whole double slash thing over and over. And sometimes they'll drop stuff and they'll be like, hey, we noticed you suck, have some medicine, because you're using the knife. And sometimes items just kind of respawn. So I should note, my emulator crapped out on me. That's actually why I didn't end up finishing this particular one. Like, for example, many of these things I've already picked up, but for some reason it's deciding that I need to read them again. Yeah, different enemies have different mechanics. Like, you've got different zombies later that are armed, and they've got crowbars, so they can attack you from outside of knife range and stuff like that. And that guy's off screen, so he didn't trigger. Sometimes if you end up getting grabbed by a zombie, a swarm of them will just kind of come around the corner. But, I don't know, I think this is really cool. It's definitely not... This isn't Game of the Year material, but considering what they were working with, like, how cool is this, you know? It's still a full-blown game. Like, unlike many other ports later on down the road, it's weird that the Game Boy Color had a lot of games that were very girthy for what they were. In this particular case, this one is, I feel it's legitimately longer than RE1. Yeah, there is some backtracking, but there's a pretty decent amount of unique locations and stuff like that. You've got proper bosses and things. Granted, so far 3 of the bosses are the same guy, but it is what it is. This one's non-canon, by the way. It's mostly because the ending. Because, let's be real, you're not probably finishing this one. They had this weird ending where Leon died. Except he... Like, okay, you know the ending to RE, or how they had Resident Evil Revelations, and they had that weird bit where... Wait, I already... Yeah, my emulator's being all kinds of janky, because I already have that fuse. And it gave me another one. I don't know. Anyway, so they kind of had that ending at the end of Revelations where they're like, oh man, but, you know, was this little girl mind-controlled by parasites the entire time or something like that? I believe every part of that game was intended to be like a this is what we actually meant to do kind of thing of what this originally was, because you still have Barry as the main character, you still have the same similar ending, where you have a character that's suddenly like, hey, they've been an imposter the whole time kind of situation. So in this particular case, you've got Leon here, who you're supposed to be looking for this it's like parasite thing the entire game, and they have a different blood type, and then right at the very end you see he's got a cut on his hand and it's the wrong color, and it's like, oh, you killed the real one. But yeah, it's like this shapeshifter thing type situation. But anyway, if nothing else, it's a pretty cool game. Pretty neat to go check out. If you're emulating it, which, yeah, of course you are, it just bear in mind, apparently or was it VGBA or something like that, or MGBA, does act very strangely with it for some reason. And I'm not really sure why. Another thing that should probably be mentioned is when it comes to your to your keys and things like that, you might be saying, wait a minute, how can you tell anything on this Game Boy nonsense? Well, each of the keys tells you what they go to. So there's definitely more quality of life features than it seems. Also, wow, can't hit this guy worth a crap. There we go. Oh, and yeah, they'll come back to life sometimes and go back for another round. And as the game goes on, like, if you've played RE Remake, many things may seem similar. Which, by the way, I appreciate the details that for every different room type you're in, they actually do update the background, so you can see the sink running for the bathroom here. And the fact that they've got a open door section over there, because the door got knocked down in the bathroom. Like, I just love it. There's so many little details. You could tell they really tried. Weirdly enough, the shotgun rounds didn't respawn, but apparently the folder did. Oh, there's one of those armed ones. Who's probably just going to insta-kill me here. And this is what I mean by you occasionally just get swarmed. And there's a runaway mechanic, but you usually just die if you try to use it. Like that. Yeah, not an ideal mechanic, but whatever. You'd have a continue function. Because again, it was on the Game Boy. There's a lot of quality of life stuff. It's a romp. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I already... What in the hell? What is even going on right now? I re-got the shotgun. Apparently it's actually known for kind of glitching out on emulators. And you only have one of each weapon, by the way, before that becomes a theory. But yeah, with the different zombie types, by the end of the game, you basically have the equivalent of Crimson Heads just basically everywhere. This kind of goes... It almost follows a RE Outbreak type formula, wherein everything's fairly chilled out early on, and then with every new plot update, there's new enemies streaming in all over the place. Until eventually, yeah, like the gray crowbar zombies, you really don't even want to fight those. Because at that point, it's like, do you want to take 4 shots per each individual unit and just hope they can't reach you? Or what exactly? Which, by that point, you do have, like, rocket launchers and a room-clearing gas gun and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a full-blown RE title. It's very stingy with the ammo. I'd say probably use this knife as much as... like a pistol and knife run of RE4, that's about how much you'll be using the knife in this one. You have up to 3 characters in your party. Your third character, it's a little bit odd. I usually use her as the knife character, which is kind of strange, because like, here, little child, have this knife, go fight a tyrant. But, hey, optimal's optimal, right? So anyway, yeah, you've got different armors that you can give to different people. That's why I have, usually you want to give your best armor to your melee character. But either way, you know, it's cool. It's a fun game. It's a, you know, fun little why not kind of situation. And to kind of, to explain the controls, because they are a little bit weird. Like, if you're aiming at something, you just kind of, like, hold B and you move your reticle around, and this range changes based on your weapon. Whereas, like, if you have a knife, you can barely go in front of you, which right now that's the only thing that there's ammo for, but if we switch over to this rifle here, then suddenly whip out gun, you know, you can aim way farther. It doesn't really update its sprite but it does update your movement type based on different weapons. Like, it seems like the assault rifle moves way faster than the shotgun, stuff like that. But then the faster they move, also the harder they are to aim, ironically. But, you know, they had to balance out the minigame somehow. What else? Oh yeah, like B is pretty much your switch between characters thing for different interactions. That one took me a while to figure out, that's the only reason I'm mentioning it. You got start on the map, which up and down you go to different floors, so the map is pretty functional. As you can see, we're at the point we're supposed to go look at the security room, at which point Barry leaves for a bit. And yeah, at different points of the game you get different party members. Like, for a while you play as just Leon, for a while you play as just Barry. I don't think you ever play as just Little Girl, but anyway. And then you have different combinations of said characters, but way better than it has any right to be. It's still, even within reviews I've seen from like the big Resident Evil community and stuff like that, it's still viewed as pretty much garbage. But okay, it's not amazing, but it's really cool for what it is. That's the best way I can put it. The music isn't too great, as you can tell. But yeah, it's very simple in its objectives. Let's see, in terms of not getting stuck, I was able to get through almost all of it without actually trying to figure out where anything is. So, for a little bit of context here, it's like this is like where you start off with. You're essentially in a giant boat. Most of the stuff is fairly clear because it'll just basically give you a big red, here you go, here's where you go, we know you might have forgotten, you go to this room and plot happens, kind of situation. But you more or less just run around all over the map. There's little hidden things. It gives you a pretty reasonable window in terms of your notifications for where stuff can be found. In terms of rooms that are locked, every key that you find will tell you what floor it's on, and usually based on the rooms that are left, you'll have a pretty solid idea of where to go. So I'd say navigation-wise, it's fine. When it got to the first floor area, you do have to go down there in different ways. So for example, just like bear in mind there's different ways up and down in each part of the map. It's like at one point you have to use those stairs on the left to get down here because that area is kind of off on its own. At another point you will need a key for that room on the far left in order to get down to the first floor. Whereas at another point, those stairs right there would be what you need to use. Or at another point you'd use the elevators there on the right side. So, just bear in mind, on the right side, you see where that black hole is? That area's got elevators in it. If you're ever at a point where you're like, wait, I don't have a key for this room over on the far left, that's because you have to explore that whole area. That's the only point that I ever got stuck, that it wasn't immediately obvious where to go. And that's without terribly extensive exploration or anything like that. So, yeah. If this looks like your kind of thing, if you're curious to give it a go, give it a go. Yeah, have yourselves a good one. Take care. I know it's not ogre related, but I just thought it was kind of neat. Alright, take care. Bye.